Start out, I'm just going to say a little bit about the Rothman Institute so people, if new people come, they know who we are. So with that, it's 12 o'clock. We like to start and finish on time. I'm your host, Dr. Dale Caldwell, the Executive Director of the Rothman Institute of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. And today we have Kevin Johnson, who is a former extraordinary football player, but currently an extraordinary entrepreneur, but an even better person. And so it's going to be an honor to have a conversation with Kevin today. And I promise each of you will learn a lot about business, about life. I just learned so much when I talked to him. First, I just want to talk about the Rothman Institute of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. And so we've been around over 30 years. Our focus is on promoting, researching, and supporting entrepreneurship when it comes to veterans, family businesses, students, and urban businesses, and really providing advisory services and consulting. We do this show to really bring on experts, people who have been successful entrepreneurs, people who advise successful entrepreneurs. And we record this, we put this on our YouTube page so that folks will have access to some information so that when they are trying to get through to the next level, they can talk to or hear from people like Kevin. So Kevin, first, welcome. And I want to begin with, a little bit about who you are. And so where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Hamilton Township, New Jersey, my whole entire life.
So a Jersey guy, and did you go to high school at Hamilton?
Yes, I went to Hamilton High West.
Okay.
From 91 to 94.
Okay, and so now you played football and you were a quarterback there?
Yes, I received a full scholarship to Syracuse University, as a quarterback in 94, same year as Donovan McNabb. And through that process, they thought I would be a better wide receiver after a tough competition. Moved to wide receiver my junior year in college. Did not start, worked hard, worked through the process, learned from other professionals. And my senior year, I was given an opportunity to start. And after starting and having a great year working with Donovan, and obviously his story is historical, some of the things that he did in Philadelphia, I was able to be drafted the 32nd overall pick to the Cleveland Browns.
Well, man, there's so much in that story for folks. So one is, I'm so impressed that you really put your ego. I mean, we all have an ego. We all have that, but you have to set your ego. You're a superstar. To be recruited to Syracuse from a small New Jersey town, you must have been a star. And so how did you deal with that ego? It's like, wait, I'm used to being a star. How did you deal with that?
Well, I think it was, very humbling. I think when you allow people to build you up, and at the time, Syracuse was a phenomenal, college football program. They were rated in the top 10 every year. So I was probably one of the top highest recruited players in the country coming out of Hamilton West. Getting to Syracuse, obviously, you start believing the press clippings, you start believing what people are saying about you. And while I got there, I met a Donovan McNabb who was arguably very talented, 6'2", 6'3", 215, 220 pounds, can do it all. And here I was, a 5'11" quarterback, 180 pounds, who just met his match. And I think, through hard work and dedication, I competed, I did everything possible, but I just knew I had a place within the organization, within the team to have a, tremendous impact. After a lot of consideration, thinking about transferring, thinking about all the other things that possibly was out there, I decided to stick it through. I made my bed. My mother always told me, you make your bed, you lay in it. And I decided to transfer, with the help of a guy named Marvin Harrison, who was a first ballot Hall of Famer with the Indianapolis Colts. He helped, hone my tools, helped me become a wide receiver. And I transitioned and I made a bad situation, pretty good.
Wow. And so, not only did you not have the position, but you went to another position and you didn't start. And so, and those are lessons. And when we hear about his entrepreneurial philosophy, that really, and so that was great training, wasn't it?
I think so. I think one of the things that society today, always looks at is, I want instant gratification. I want instant success. But I think one of the things that we always have to look at is, what do we learn in the process? What do we learn from our setbacks? What do we learn from our, from the opportunities where we don't get what we want? The famous cliche is, a setback is just really, set up for, a comeback. So I always look at, what is God, or what is the situation trying to teach me as I go through it. I think it really builds your character, builds your integrity, and allows you to, when you get to the position that you've always been honing, you have better success and you have a better opportunity to, reap the benefits of your hard work and dedication.
Yeah, well, and you're living that. You're living that in so many ways. All right, so you're tell me about what's it like to be an NFL player?
I think, you live a childhood dream. I think,
Right.
You've been playing a game, all your life, and you're never paid for it. So I think when you get to playing professional football, we all look at, the opportunity to make a lot of money, but we're still playing a child's game, and you're playing with the best of the best in the world. So I think it's something that I always tell people, that's one of the best highlights that I could ever, imagine or dream of is playing in an atmosphere, doing a job with the best in the world, and really trying to compete and one up them. So great experience, met a lot of phenomenal people, experienced and understood what hard work and dedication, really is. Because a lot of times, the harder you get to the top, the harder it is not only to stay at the top, but it's also harder to hone your skills, because when you're up there, it's not much room, and you really have to fine tune the details to actually improve.
Well, and again, and all these are lessons for entrepreneurs, but I often think about them. People don't really think about it. So you're doing well on your team. So, but every year there are stars coming out of college that challenge you. So you can't let your guard down.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you hit it on a key point. I think at an early age, you learn that is a coach, a owner, a general manager. Every year they're trying to improve their team. And I think people in society take it personal when someone's looking to upgrade a situation, but that's their responsibility. So you got to stay on your A game. You got to continue to hone your craft, because every year they're trying to replace you with younger, better talent at a cheaper rate. So you got to make it tough on them. So if they are going to replace you, they're going to really work really hard, because you're not going to give it up without a good solid fight.
Well, again, the NFL is so popular now and so on. That's why I really appreciate you talking about this, because there are questions I know people have. So going from team to team, what's that like with your family and some moving from city to city? And what teams were you with?
It's actually tough. And I was fortunate that my kids were young. My kids were 2, 3 years old at the time. I had 2 boys. So it really didn't impact the schools and really, getting up and really getting them used to, new friends and stuff like that. So we were fortunate in that aspect. But it's actually fun, because one of the things about the NFL, you've always played with a guy or a few guys on a team. Coaches, lose jobs, gain jobs. So there's always familiarity with different players. And during the off season, you train with a lot of guys, and you see guys, during games and throughout the off season. So you always have relationships. It was always great to learn a new area, learn new cultures,
Right.
learn how other people prepare, work with different, superstars, and seeing what made them who they are. So it was actually great, because it honed me as a person.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. So now, as you are leaving now you decided to, why did you leave your NFL career? What prompted you to kind of move to the outside world?
So my last year, I was playing for the Detroit Lions, and I actually tore my Achilles tendon. I actually went down in Birmingham, Alabama, with Dr. James Andrew, a world-renowned specialist in surgical procedures. And it came to that point where my boys were, 7, 8 years old. And I said, all right, I got to make a decision. Do you want to continue to get up and move, have your kids travel the world, or do you want to say, you know what, now it's time for me to transition and move into the next phase of my life? So I decided to take a leap of faith and started to put my plan in place as far as my transition into the real world, into the business world. And I think in 2006, I decided to say, you know what, let me take a few steps back, gather myself and start to get ready for, the real corporate world.
So you actually developed a plan. You're a planner. So you really were thinking strategically about that. Talk a little bit about that process.
Well, one of the things that I learned early on, and I think one of my mentors was a guy named Troy Vincent, who's from New Jersey, the
Right.
PA area, born and raised in Trenton. So he's actually the second in charge of NFL football right now under Roger Goodell. So Troy told me back in I think it was like 97, 98 when I was started to get ready to leave college and enter into the pros. He said, Kay, you got to start preparing for retirement when you get into the league. And so that really, stayed and stuck in my brain. So he said, retirement is just a play away. So at that point, just watching him, how he conducted himself as a professional, and how he went about his business, I always started to look at life. Okay, as I work through the NFL, what type of relationships that am I building? What type of people am I talking to? Whose brain am I picking? And so I started to, really gravitate towards people and read like Fortune 500 magazines, and started to try to see, how did successful people do it? What were some of the common themes and common elements that, wealthy people, did, and how they can, live their lives. So that I started that probably my first year in professional football.
Well, you see behind me, these are some of the books I've read. One is on influence, called Intelligent Influence, which is all about influence. And so one of the things that strikes me about who you are is you always, even early on, you really understood the value of putting the right people around you, of really stepping back and listening to people that have more experience. How did you always do that? Did you do that in high school too?
Well, I think you shouldn't reinvent the wheel. There's a commonality of what successful people do, and how they conduct themselves, and how they live their lives. A lot of it's routine. A lot of it's, is constant practice, doing a lot of things consistently. And I think when you start to be around and hang around greatness and talk around greatness, there's something in the room that you should gravitate towards and pick up something from each individual. So that was something that was important to me. And I think, playing pro football, being around, such unique and talented people, that it was a way that guys go about their business that a lot of times people don't see it in the real world, because TV only shows you the end product. They don't show you the grind and the process. So when you're around that every day, things don't happen by accident. They happen from hard work and dedication.
See, that's and for those of young entrepreneurs, and even those that are older entrepreneurs, that's the message, that it's a grind. It's hard. It's hard. You can reap some great rewards, but it really is. So you've made your plan. You could go anywhere in the country or the world. How did you decide to come to Jersey? I know you're from here. Did Troy Vincent help to convince you? What went through your head?
It was something that was familiar to me, and my wife is from New Jersey as well, so it was just something that was very familiar. And I think one of the things that I knew leaving pro football was I knew fitness. I knew how to prepare. I knew how to get someone from A to B, and to improve their body, improve their mindset, improve their skill set. So I felt Jersey was a great, place to start because of familiarity. And this is where we decided to make home.
Excellent. And so again, I should tell, you are a committed family man. You have wonderful kids. How did you and your wife meet?
Well, we're actually my high school sweetheart. So my wife and I have been together for years. So she's sort of the better part of myself. So, we go way back. So good, bad, different. She's always been a rock. So, having her by my side, she actually, it's a blessing in disguise.
And he's saying that she's not watching, so it's from the heart. So he's not just saying it. All right. So you come back to Jersey. You want to do a fitness center. How did you start? How did you start that?
Well, one of the things you always hear about in any type of, real estate transaction is location, location, location. So I think when you looked at New Jersey was in a growth pattern, moving towards South Jersey and Central Jersey. So when you look at New York City, New Jersey real estate was extremely expensive right when you come out of New York City, and it started to travel down south. So, I took a look at it, and I looked at Route 130, and you look at Route 130 starts in New Brunswick, and you start to see the value of real estate in New Brunswick. And as it comes down, it started to get cheaper and cheaper. And so I found a location in Bordentown, New Jersey, because when you look at Bordentown, it's sort of central New Jersey, but it's also like the neck of New Jersey. So you have New Jersey Turnpike, you have 295, you have 195. And so when you looked at the pattern, what they were doing in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, that they were building an extension from the PA Turnpike to connect to the New Jersey Turnpike to give it more access. So my envision was, when you look at the tri-state area, I believe the tri-state area covers about 30% of the population in the country. So I said, if I can get on a major artery that has access to all of those major interstates, within 2 miles, you probably got something. So that was important for me. When you look at the history of real estate, it's always about location.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the strategic way you go about thinking. And so, and I love, it defies the stereotype. Well, he's a football player. He lets his body decide. No, you are strategically, just like a good entrepreneur, kind of saying, where should I be? Location is important. This is what's going on demographically. And I find a lot of people don't do that. They kind of go with their gut and they don't look at the numbers, and then they regret it. They really regret it. So,
well, I think one of the things you mentioned there is being a ex football player, ex NFL player is a blessing and a curse. The blessing side of it is that you're extremely detailed, because when you're going into a game on Sunday, you leave no stone unturned. You practice all week and you watch tape and you find the slightest, issue or problem or, issue with another team, personnel, guy who can't play really well, and you attack the weaknesses. So I think that was one of the things that, being a ex-professional athlete, was that you can hone into the details and you can find the weakness in anything. So if you look at something long enough, there is a weakness. You just got to be patient enough to find it. The con to being a pro and being a pro, athlete is people think you're not educated, you're dumb. And you can use that to your advantage, because people really show their colors if you give them long enough. And I always believe that's why God gives you 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth. So be quick to listen and watch and slow to talk.
Yeah. Yeah. I've met a number of folks, and I'm just so impressed with how brilliant, I mean, it's not just smart, but brilliant, successful athletes are, because as you said, it's that detail. And those of us we watch football, and I'm a tennis guy. And so I know the details and ins and outs of tennis. But when you watch the NFL, you don't realize how much is going on and how difficult the plays are. I mean, I know folks that didn't last in the league because they couldn't memorize the plays. Right. And so, your mind's constantly working. And so and I love what you said about exploiting weakness. And that's really, really key. So, all right. So you've done this analysis, the area, you got a good sense of what the opportunity is. What was the first thing you did?
Well, like I said, so then you do further due diligence. You look at what is the growth pattern, the income of the area, and then you start to try to find, okay, how do I look at this area, and how do I do what I want to do. So one of the things that Dr. James Andrews told me, as well as his physical therapist Kevin Wilkes, was, he said, Kevin, when you look at fitness going forward, it's going to be it's going to be medically based. So you need a hospital, you need medical practices around it, because one of the things that we always know, that people get sick, and people are going to focus more on their wellness aspect rather than being bigger, stronger athletes. So that was important for me to start to reach out to the local medical practices, hospitals, and started looking at their future plans and what was their growth strategy. And I started to do that due diligence, that exploratory process, and started to meet with, the Capital Healths of the world, the Robert Wood Johnson of the world, the St. Francis Medical Centers of the world, and started to see and get a feel for what their expansion processes were.
Interesting. And you also, I know the Rothman Orthopedics is right there. And we joke at the Rothman Institute, people think we're connected. So I say I'm from Rothman, and say, you did my knee, you did my hip, but no, we didn't. We do entrepreneur stuff, not that health stuff. All right. So what was your first project? What was the first project, and how did you get financing to support that project?
Well, that's very interesting. So when I first started off, it was 2007, 2008. And we all remember the real estate collapse and the housing collapse in 2007, 2008. Yeah. And one of the things that I think that people don't understand being an entrepreneur, that you got to be okay with doors being shut in your face and people telling you that, that's not going to work, or, banks telling you that you need more experience. That's a part of the process. That's a part of you honing your skills, getting that mental toughness. So I met with every single bank that I can get in front of, probably 15 to 20 different banks. And they said, thank you, Kevin, great idea, but we're going to pass. Thank you, Kevin, great idea, we're going to pass. But that work ethic, that tenacity, and that focus, that you just continue to, try and work at it. So In 2009, 2010, after about 2 or 3 years of getting put in front of banks, finally I met with a guy from TD Bank named Tim Proctor, who was the regional manager of all the real estate transactions that was going on. I presented it to him. He said, yeah, we'll take a shot. And I was pretty much shocked because there was so many people said no to me. So
Right.
the first building I built on site was a medical office building for St. Francis Medical Center on my campus.
And so there's a lot there. I mean, one of the things that I tell folks, and Kevin was on my show, Entrepreneur State of Mind. And when I talked to the interview family businesses and others, I say, well, how did you start 50 years ago? And they all said, well, the bank trusted me and gave me a character loan, and they don't have character loans anymore. And that really hurts the American economy. That, I mean, here, Kevin, you're hearing Kevin, he's a successful athlete, very structured, brilliant guy. If it was 50 years ago, if taking away any of the kind of some of the racial implications, you're the kind of guy they would want to take a chance on. And you've proven them right. So they benefit from taking a chance. So I don't know how we in our economy, we need to really push banks and push legislators to really say, you need to invest. Banks need to have the freedom to invest in people that they believe in. So that's a great story. And so that first project went well, obviously. How did you decide to go on the next project?
Well, after the first project, you started to say, like, I didn't get a chance to build my health club yet, but working with a big company like St. Francis Medical Center and Trinity Healthcare, who's really the parent company of St. Francis Medical Center, you build a reputation. And again, it wasn't the smoothest process, but we got it to the finish line. Mm-hmm. So then you built some mental equity and capital with the bank that says, hey, this guy can get things across the finish line. So as you move forward, now some of the naysayers or the banks and the people who didn't think you can actually start, you start to gain their attention. So I continued working with TD Bank, and then I built my corporate office, because one of the things I realized is that when you look the part, people look at you a little bit different. So I invested a few $1 million in my corporate office, because one of the things about it is when you invite people to your corporate office, people do transaction with people, not so much of how smart you are, but how you look and how you present yourself. So I had to have that good presentation to make sure that when people want to do business with me, not so much that I was smart, and it's sad to say it, but you need to look smart. And so when they walked into the office, you give them a chance to sit down, embrace the atmosphere, and then you start to conduct your business. And that started to open up more doors and more opportunities, because people's perception of me changed, because I passed that look test of what corporate America, no matter how strange it sounds, and it really is crazy, but you pass that look test from a individual and from what corporate America perceives as success.
And I love, Kevin, how you keep it real. I love how you're really talking about reality. And so, I'm a blithering idiot, but I have books behind me, so people think that I'm smart. So they,
right. But whether you are or not, that's the reality of what our country looks at.
Yeah, exactly. And they really look at that. And so, but then when they know and they've seen you be successful, then you're at another level. And so you're another level. And so now, how did you start this gem? How did you start Team 85?
So after I proved to TD Bank, and TD Bank lent me well over 20-something $million, they just was at a point to where they said, hey, our legal lending amount was, we started to exceed our legal lending amount. So at that point, I had Fulton Bank on site, who was also, a tenant of mine. So they decided to lend me some more money to do my next venture, which was another medical office building. So earned their trust, gained their trust, and then I started to proceed. So once I got finished with all of the office buildings around me, the biggest risk in the whole project was the health club, because I'm 100% owner of my entire, property here in my portfolio. So a bank wanted to make sure you had enough equity and enough experience that when we lend you, $10, $15 million to build a health club, that you have the perseverance and the confidence and the war stripes to make sure that when things get a little rocky, that you've proven to us that you can figure it out. So I eventually convinced Amboy Bank to lend me those funds to build my health club. And and that actually was 2014. And the health club was finished in 2016. And we've been doing, fairly well, all things considered, for the last, 5-6 years.
Well, one of the things you told me strategically when I had a chance to visit this site, and we can show I can pull up the website, is that the new healthcare, and even before the pandemic, people want to walk to the gym, right? People want to be close to it so they can come and go, and that's such a brilliant, just a brilliant idea. And so, how'd the gym do when you first got it going?
It came out. It was cash flow positives day one. So
Wow.
we built something that was sustainable. We built something that was beautiful and that gained a lot of people's eye appeal. And then we backed it up with quality service, great programming, and I think the community really enjoyed what we had to offer. And we see stories every day where we have people who are living much healthier. Went to the doctors with high blood pressure. Blood pressure comes all the way down. People losing 100 pounds. Go back to the doctors, and doctor says, "Wow, what have you been doing?" So that is the real benefit behind it, because you want to make the community much healthier. Live longer and live, to be with their friends and family.
Excellent. So is it okay if I punch up the website? We can talk
Absolutely.
to it. Let people see this beautiful place. All right. So it's Team 85. So why do you call it Team 85?
Well, one of the things that I felt that was important when you start looking at community, centers or community, locations is together, everyone accomplishes more. Everyone has to be in it together, and everyone has to, want to pour a little bit into the jar to create, to help others. 85 was my NFL jersey number, and I just felt that was a great, statement to represent from a health and wellness center.
Excellent. So if we look at the virtual tour, that's beautiful. So yeah, talk about this area. So how much parking do you have?
So on the entire campus, I believe we have close to 1,100, 1,200 parking spaces.
Okay.
So the building in the middle is the health club. The building to the left of it is St. Francis Medical Center. And the building in the building behind the health club right here in the front is an indoor turf facility. And the building in the far rear, which is a 3-story medical office building, we have physical therapy in that building. My corporate office is on the 3rd floor.
Excellent. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful campus. It's a real beautiful. Now, what about the trees in the back? What's that? Is that just open land or what?
Yeah. So the trees in the back and the silos is right there to your rear. I'm actually in a process of developing 269 apartments. I believe, Dale, if you go to teamcampus.com.
Teamcampus.com.
If you want to go to teamcampus.com, it'll show you the expansion. So these photos right here, you can see more of the campus, but you can click on that, Dale.
Okay. I was a little slower here. Why is it not switching here? There we go. So live, work, play.
Yes. Are you there yet?
Yeah. Can you see it?
Yes. So what I attempted to do here was Team Campus makes up approximately 65 acres that I own, which is 32 on one side and a balance on the other side.
Okay.
So if you can, so here is 82 55 and older apartments that I started probably about 18 months ago. We finished one of the buildings and the other one should be finished within the next 60 days.
Okay, excellent.
So here is the expansion.
Wow.
If you want to go up a little bit more, Dale, you can probably see it. So this is the expansion that we're doing to the current, Team 85 Fitness and Wellness campus. We're one more, Dale.
There we go. Can you see that? I have architectural details.
Right. So right here, the picture that he has in front of us right there, you can actually see the health club again in the middle photo. And what we did was we put an additional 6 apartment buildings that will go in place of where the silos is. So that project is actually started. So we expect to have the first building completed by this time next year, and then we'll start rolling out the other buildings. So we really wanted to create a live, work, play environment, because one of the things that I think we saw through COVID is people are much more of a social butterfly, and they want to be around environments where they can live, they can work, and they can play. And play being really the health club, to be able to have their kids go out and play sports, go work out, go to a Zumba class, go to aerobics class. So we believe this is the type of facility and type of urban living arrangements that people are gravitating towards. So, this campus we think is going to thrive. We have additional medical practices that are coming. So this will be something that I think is going to be phenomenal as we move forward.
And so this is your headquarters here.
Yes.
And the fitness and wellness. I mean, this is an amazing complex, the medical building complex. Wow. And employment. You and I talked yesterday about employment, that you really go out of your way to encourage and give other people a chance to employ. Obviously, you employ some family members and friends and other things. Talk about that. Talk about your philosophy about employment.
Well, I think one of the hardest things in our society today is to have confidence and to be able to find people who can understand your issues or your insecurities or some of the things that motivates and encourages you. So what I try to do is I try to look for young individuals who are need some encouragement, need some motivation, and needs to see someone like them, grew up in the same areas, who has some similar challenges that they can sort of look at and ask some of the tough questions. So one of the things that I always try to do is I don't wear suits. I try not to, because I think a lot of times when you look at inner city kids, you look at kids who have less than, they can't relate to a suit and tie. I knew when I first left pro football, I used to always believe a person who had a suit and tie was intelligent and was smart, because that's what I thought. As I grew in business, I realized some of them are the most uneducated and unintelligent individuals I've seen. But what they do is they hide behind those clothing and a briefcase, and they trick people into allow others to feel that I'm not capable, or I don't have the ability to do that. So I always just try to get on younger individuals' level, talk to them, that say, hey, you got to have a tremendous work ethic. You gotta trust everything in yourself that you can achieve, and you can get to where you want to go. And I think when they see me, they say, okay, this guy started from the bottom. This guy pulled himself up. And if he can do it, then why not me? And I think you can motivate and encourage people by being honest and open, that, listen, you're not going to have success on your first attempt. You're not going to have it on your second attempt. It may take you 10 opportunities, but anyone who's at the top, they failed multiple times. They may not tell you that, but they have, because that's the only way you can get to where you want to go. And that has really motivated a lot of kids and young adults to say, you know what, it's okay to fail and to get yourself back up and try it again.
And I'm as you're talking, I'm showing this is an amazing facility. Now, a lot of thought went into designing this. Talk about the thought and designing the inside of this facility. This amazing place.
Well, the key thing is I wanted to make it sort of that modern day hotel type feel, not a sweat box, a gym. I wanted to make it sort of a wellness center, a place that people can feel very comfortable. One thing about fitness right now, only 13 or 14% of our population, are actively involved in health clubs. And one of the things that you can look at COVID, one of the things that helped individuals through COVID was building their immune system. And one of the best ways to build your immune system is through fitness and to working out and to build your body to fight off, viruses and things like that. So if we can get more than the percentage that we have to utilize, health clubs and get themselves more active, then your body can be able to sustain, viruses and COVID type symptoms. So we have a long way to go. And what I wanted to do is make this environment non-intimidating. And we put, fresh, bright colors on it. I purchased the best equipment that money can buy. And we have great resources around the facility that can help people, become the best version of themselves.
Now, I love this. You can see on the wall, you have motivational sayings. Did you come up with those, or was there a strategy in doing that?
Well, one of the things that I always believe in is great, cliches or messages that can just, give you that, that pick me up. And I think people need that, if you maximize the day, if you do everything possible in the moment and you continue to make those deposits every day, that's how one becomes successful. I think a lot of times we look all the way at the finish line before we go through the process, and it looks daunting and it looks long. I think people get so, nervous and say, "Oh, I'm not doing that. That takes too long," rather than maximizing every single opportunity every single day.
It's really just beautiful, and just the tour. Now, now you have, talk a little bit. So we looked at the lifting equipment, the cardio equipment. This is a running track. You also have basketball and other things outside of that. Talk a little bit about the inside some more.
Yeah. So, as you filter through this entire tour, we have 2 full court basketballs. We have an indoor turf facility. And we basically have everything possible to allow people to, basically spend the day at an environment. Families, can have, little Johnny, little Susie doing certain things. So it's everything. It's a one-stop shop. Football, basketball, we do softball, baseball training. We do everything. We have a little bit of everything. And our line is, we have something for everyone. We have 2 pools. We have a kiddie pool. We have a lap pool. So I tried to make sure that I covered every base. My days in professional sports and in college sports, I wanted to build a one-stop shop. And I think, I was able to do it. Took a lot of hard work, dedication, a lot of research, a lot of, homework, going to different places, seeing the do's and don'ts of what other people do. And we, Team Campus and Team 85 Fitness and Wellness was born. And, that's where, we've trained tons of athletes, a lot of guys in college, some guys in pro football. And it's just been a great experience. Here's another cliche: dreams do not become goals without work. And I think, that's what people think. Sometimes nothing is just going to happen. You're just not going to show up one day and you're going to, reach your goal or your destination. I don't know how far this one goes around, but I have a great line in here in this room. It was the line by Theodore Roosevelt was "The man in the arena." So,
right.
A lot of people see, Tom Brady now, he's on TV now. He has a special on ESPN called "The Man in the Arena." That's something that a lot of guys who in pro sports can value, because when you put yourself on Front Street and you allow people to throw stones at you, there's going to be good and bad things that happen. One of the things that I always value when you read that man in the arena, it just tells you that at least you tried, at least you gave it your best effort, at least you didn't not try. And a lot of people judge from the sideline. Everybody wants to be Monday morning quarterback. Everybody wants to tell you what you can or you cannot do because they haven't done it and they haven't put themselves in a position to be judged. So that's why, in this room is phenomenal, because I tell people, you got to fear nothing. You got to be a dog. You got to have, you got to be willing to put yourself out there. And if you fail, you fail. If you don't make it, you don't make it. But at least you gave it your best, shot. And here it is coming right here. We have a poem. I always tell people to read this. It's "The Man in the Arena." It just goes and just explains to people that when you give it your all, then it is what it is, and people can judge you, but you tried. And if you don't try, you never have a chance to succeed. So this room is great. And it builds these young guys up and these young women up to say, take a shot.
Yeah. Yeah, give it your shot. So how do you, on that note, how do you feel about, as an athlete? I mean, people are making millions, have never been athletes before, but they're talking about them. They'll say, "Hey, Joe, Joe's horrible. This guy's mediocre." As an athlete who's given your life, how do you honestly feel about, I won't mention any names, feel about people who are big mouths but have never done it?
It's the noise. It's the nature of the beast. And
Right.
you have to be able to listen to the noise and not take it personal, because those are Monday morning quarterbacks, or you go up to people and say, "Oh, I used to do this 10 years ago. I used to do this 20 years ago," or "You should try this," or "You should do this."
Right.
So then you don't want to say it, but you want to say, "Well, if you're capable of doing this, then why are you sitting here talking to me?"
Exactly.
But you got to do it. You got to be professional. You got to make sure that you stay within yourself, and you can't show people your weakness. And nowadays you have these thumb tough guys. I call them paper champions, that they go on social media and
Right.
they write these thoughts about you because they haven't done it. And you got to take that with pride, and you got to take that with dignity, and you got to continue to move it forward.
There it is, man.
Here go another one. So as you enter our field house,
Right.
I put the same poem up, "The Man in the Arena," because we want people to understand that, if it was easy, everyone would do it.
Right.
But it's not going to be easy.
Right.
And you got to be willing to put yourself under that spotlight and be judged and not take it personal, and continue to still move forward.
Excellent. Now, are you all full as far as, so if people on this call are in the area, the Bordentown area, are you still taking memberships?
Oh yes, we're definitely, we're growing our membership base again. So people want to come by and join. We give you a quality tour. We give you sort of assessments when you join, and we just try to do the very best we can to allow people to be the best version of themselves. And again, it's never going to be easy. It's all about hard work and dedication, but we provide the atmosphere and the resources around you to allow that to be as efficient as possible.
What a coincidence! You pitched orange and blue. Isn't that Syracuse's colors?
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
a strange coincidence, isn't it?
Absolutely.
That's a beautiful gem. When you showed me the gem, that's and so I'm just taking people through. I love this virtual tour, so people on can really, as we're talking, can really see. All right, so you've built this. Now, do you work with a lot of high school, high level athletes for basketball and football and baseball?
Yes, we're getting back into, through this pandemic, obviously for the last 2 years, it's been a hit or miss because, obviously we wanted to be as safe as possible. Didn't want to try to expose people to, more people than they didn't have to be around. But prior to COVID, we probably put or help put at least 25 to 30, guys into college. Like I said, we have guys who are in the pros. I mean, we've worked with Minka Fitzpatrick, who's now the safety for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh wow!
We work with Eli Apple, who started in the Super Bowl this year for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Oh wow!
We work with Rasul Douglas, who's the starting corner for the Green Bay Packers. I mean, we got countless guys in college football playing at a high level. Marvin Harrison Jr. at Ohio State, Justin Short at Florida. Fred Hansard at Penn State. I mean, we've gotten a lot of guys,
wow,
to improve on themselves. Not so much from what we offer, but just providing them a quality place to get themselves bigger, stronger, and faster, and being a resource to guys who have questions and concerns, as well as parents, just to provide them an atmosphere that, again, that I wish I had when I was in high school, to have. And here goes some other, statements that I'm big on. Don't talk about your dreams. It said, don't ask if your dreams are crazy.
Ask if your dreams are
crazy enough. Because I always tell people, dream big dreams, ask for big, big things. And, we call ourselves Grind University. When you come here, you're here to grind, you're here to get yourself better. So these are things that always kept me motivated and always kept me encouraged. And I just wanted to extend these things to high school and college kids because that's what it's all about.
How important, so one of the questions too, how important is it surrounding yourself with the right people? You've kind of talked about that, but that's That's a good question.
I think it's extremely important because a lot of times if you don't surround yourself with the right people, either people can talk you into pursuing your dream or they can talk you out of your dreams.
Right.
So if you're not around the right people who can give you some type of experience that, how they were able to push through or navigate around, things in life, then it's hard. And I think, having a quality, people around you is always, number one in my book.
And again, we're coming to the end of the tour, but this is great. It really is. And how many square feet is this facility?
It's 120,000 square feet.
Holy cow. Wow. Wow. It's beautiful. So as you can see, as an audience, it's worth a visit. It's worth going down to see. And now, are you looking to build these in other places, other parts of the country?
If the opportunity presented itself, absolutely. I think people are needing these type of atmospheres because there's a lot of talent in our country and that goes untapped. But I think people don't have the resources or the people around them to allow them to live their best life or be the best version of themselves. So absolutely, I would love to do that.
And what is, as an entrepreneur, successful entrepreneur, as you're looking to possibly go there, how much acreage would you need, or what are kind of the elements that would make you seriously consider maybe doing another Team 85 somewhere around the country?
The people who are involved in the process, making sure you have a town, a community who not only needs it but will support it, because these are expensive ventures. They take a long time to plan, a lot of money. So you got to make sure you have the right team around you and people who are actually, have the mindset of investing in something and really working it to come to fruition.
Yeah, and we won't talk about any particular politicians or municipalities, but you and I have talked, and I used to be Deputy Commissioner, Department of Community Affairs, and it surprises me that more municipalities don't understand the value of doing exactly what you're doing, right? That they should be beating the door down to the Kevin Johnsons of the world to say, hey, can you come here and build this? What are some of your thoughts about that, about municipalities and your kind of work?
Well, I think that's a loaded question. I think one of the things that I find that when you're doing these type of ventures, the key thing is timing. You can't have this amount of money exposed for years and you get into the process to when it's not important for the municipality. Because, when you have millions of dollars, 10, 15, 20 millions of dollars sitting in the streets and you don't have a motivated, municipality who's willing to, make the process much more efficient, that's when projects die. They never get off the ground. And you got to have people who are big thinkers and who are innovators and who wants to, stop doing things that we've done 10, 15, 20 years ago. You got to have someone who's willing to break the mold. And I think these type of environments are breaking the mold because there is not a lot of them out there. And then when you don't, a lot of times I think people want to see other areas who've done certain things. And if they don't have the relationships or the mental capacity to even see it or understand it, then you're still going to be left in the Stone Ages. So I think you just need to have younger, brighter minds, innovating minds who are making decisions for these municipalities so they don't get lost into progress.
Yeah, I think that's very, very well said. And that innovation is the key. I mean, this world, and the hope is the pandemic, coming out of the pandemic, people realize we got to do things differently. We can't
Absolutely.
continue to do things the same old. And the world is changing, and to get more young people involved, more people with new ideas involved. And so it's really a challenge to change the powers that be. And so you and I have talked about that, and we're trying to work around that. And so how do you, as an entrepreneur, how do you measure where to make sure you don't go too far, you don't overextend yourself, or do you have a process for that, or is it gut feel? How do you deal with that?
Well, I think you definitely got to have some numbers or pro formas and benchmarks that you want to make sure that you stay within prior to you extending yourself more. You definitely got to have a lot of reserves. I think, COVID hit, and I think it caught a lot of people off guard. I think around the country, 30% of health clubs has closed permanently.
Really?
From
Wow.
COVID. Yeah, it was a tough year.
Wow.
New Jersey, we were closed for 6 months, which again, that's political. But you're looking at fitness and wellness. It had this dark cloud over. Hey, if I go to a health club, I'm gonna get COVID. Hey, if I do this, I'm gonna get COVID. In actuality, building your immune system is one of the best things you can do through these type of situations. And in New Jersey, we had the mentality that we're going to keep these things closed and we're not going to allow people to better themselves. And I think, being around the atmosphere of people was better. So it's just a grind, Dale. It's just so hard trying to, work around and navigate through issues. But, you just got to keep plugging away.
Well, and it's, I mean, so many things don't make sense. And again, it's not you're not beating anybody up, but I just don't understand. Liquor stores are open and health clubs are closed.
Right.
In a pandemic. I mean, just
and that was the toughest thing, because what you do is, they always say that sometimes the good guy finishes last.
Right.
So if you follow all the rules and regulations and you're not the squeaky wheel, then you don't get the oil. But the minute you start complaining, you doing things, then people pay attention. So we just need better guidance and more consistency. And what really was troublesome, as the cases started going back up this year or 2 months ago, we were open. So if we follow the same rules and regulations, we should be closed 2 months ago, because we were closed a year and a half ago and we had less cases.
Yeah.
So nothing just made sense. And there were really no grants out there for health, fitness and wellness centers that were able to help clubs. Restaurants and all these other businesses got all this money. Health clubs are still on the back burner. They didn't receive.
So
any
PPP,
grants.
there was no PPP money?
Yeah, but PPP money is different because they had certain grants out there and federal money for other areas and other businesses. But fitness and wellness centers, we didn't have the political capital and the political resources out there to fight Washington or fight the state to give us funding. But you know how politics are, the squeaky wheel, or if you pay for the highest dinner, you get a voice and all of those things. I just don't think that's right.
Right. It really isn't right. I think the American people feel the same way, that it's time for a change. And there's so many things that make absolutely no sense. So if we have some young people out there, I know we have a number of young people listening in, and there will be some watching the video, and they're interested in the health field. What advice do you give? What do you know now that you wish you knew when you were first kind of starting in this area of health?
So that's a great question. I think just surround yourself with quality people, people who have done it, people who have war marks on them, who have failed and bounced back. And just people who are open-minded, and a lot of times these young people they're innovators. They're smart. They understand how to connect with people, and I think they play a very important role in how the industry in fitness and wellness is going to move forward. So I just think just surround yourself with quality people, and don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to make a mistake, and ask the questions that no one's asking. Whether you think it's a simple question, it's a dumb question. Just ask questions, because once you start to connect the dots, it allows you to be a much more of an innovator and figure things out at a faster pace.
I mean, one of the things that's very, very clear from what we're talking about, information is power. That you can get the right information, it really can help inform your decisions, and you've been doing that your whole career, is really getting as much information as possible. And I don't know that people really understand how important that is.
I think one of the things that there's a place for everyone. So some of the times, I call them my old gurus. So some of the guys are 70, 80 years old. They have a lot of wisdom. And when you ask those guys questions, they can give you information that is very valuable from their process. But then when you ask younger people who have failed, they can give you some guidance from their direction. And then you start using your own mind to really, dissect and allow the dust to settle to figure out what your next move should be. So I can't say old people have, great insight as to what hard work and dedication is. And young people feel like at times things should happen yesterday. So it's somewhere in the middle. And I just love the relationships that I've built, so far, and it's continued to be better.
So here we have a question from our friend Anita Rivers. Do you offer internships in fitness and or business? If so, what is the process? And provide contact information, with your HR department.
So you can go into our website. I think we have info@team85fitnessandwellness.com. If you provide, your information and some of the things that you want to do, someone will definitely get back to you. And we love to have young people or anyone come in and ask questions of how we can help people. I don't care if you want to be, in the industry. My job is to help people and to try to get them, to start their own business, try it, see what it's like. And I can try to navigate you as much as I can, or to connect you with people who can, maybe navigate you a little bit better. That's what we're here for. I mean, we're here to help others, live their best life and live out, some of the things that they want to try to accomplish.
And so we've talked a lot about your buildings and your health, and now you're entering the storage business, right?
Yes.
So you're open to talk about that. Talk about what have you learned about storage? It seems to be a pretty profitable business.
Very profitable. So one of the things that I approached the township about was building an actual town center on a piece of property I have across the street. They wasn't for it. They was against it. And like I said, I'm building 350 plus apartments. And one of the things that we realized that when people start to downsize and they start to move around, we have a lot of stuff. And so one of the things that I wanted to do was provide them an opportunity to, store their stuff close by. And so I started to do some due diligence about self-storage. And when you look at the return on investment with self-storage, I mean, it is absolutely phenomenal. So I started to do some due diligence, hire an architect, start meeting with CubeSmart. So CubeSmart is going to be my person who's going to manage my facility. Okay. And they do a phenomenal job. So we look to have that completed sometime in 2023, and it will be another great asset and another great, piece of real estate that I'll have.
Well, that's really brilliant to do. And the apartment complexes are beautiful. I mean, really the way you've designed it. So you really, I mean, Bordentown, what's going to be the total residents of once it's all built out and so on? How many additional folks are going to be on your property, living on your properties?
It'll be, I think, 360 units in total.
Nice.
We got, like I said, we got more office space, retail space, building a daycare center on the property. So I think, all in all, and I got to pinch myself when I look at this, I would have invested close to about $140 million in both development. So it's been phenomenal. And just look forward to just, positioning Bordentown and the residents of Bordentown, this community, to be better and to live a happy, healthier lifestyle, and just to be, social butterflies and just to help others.
And, one of the realities is, and this is, and again, the history is important, is that you are the largest business and the largest taxpayer in Bordentown. And for me, it's particularly, I'm proud because as an African-American, you're the largest business in a town, and that doesn't happen that often. And so I applaud you that, and that's making some history. And that's important to note. It really is important to note because it doesn't happen that often.
It's a blessing, Dale. I mean, when you look at how this thing started and has the snowball started to go downhill, and as things started to really come together, and the amount of people, I employ, I mean, you're talking about on my staff between my company and my health club, you got upwards over 100, 120, 130, people. Then you start talking about the construction guys that, we employ and all of those things. Like I said, you look at how many households and how much, things that we've helped, spending, over $100 million in construction costs. That's great. It makes me feel good. And just hopefully it continues to inspire people that don't allow anyone to tell you what you can't do. You can do anything you put your heart and soul to, and you're willing to accept the grind and push it forward.
Hey man, Kevin, it's I mean, really is phenomenal. you're employing so many people. This, as I said, this should be the number one priority of every politician, is to create jobs, support entrepreneurship, and you are modeling it. And Bordentown's lucky that you picked them. Could have been another town that's reaping the benefits of your work. So Kevin, thanks for your time. It goes quickly. We're at the end of time. Any final comments or anything you want to share? Any more about your website or any contact information?
No, I think if there's anything I can do for anyone, like I said, please reach out to, info@team85fitnessandwellness.com. And I will do anything I can do to help anyone steer them in the right direction. But I appreciate you, Dale. You continue to, keep up the fight, continue to do what you do. You're a blessing, and you got a lot to offer people in this state and as well, and people around this country. You're a great guy.
Hey man, thank you so much. I want to thank all of you for watching. And again, this is going to be on video as well. We'll have thousands of people watching it too. So have a great day. Have a great weekend. And Kevin, thanks again. Be well.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Dale.